Welcome to the new episode of the Cyber Threats Radar podcast.
And welcome. Today, we're diving deep into something pretty crucial, Google account security, and importantly, recovery.
Yeah, it's more than just losing your keys, isn't it? Losing access to your Google account? Well, that can mean losing critical data, communications just stop, and honestly, a lot of security risks suddenly pop up.
Absolutely. Whether it's your personal Gmail with years of photos and emails, or you're a G Suite admin responsible for company data, getting locked out is potentially catastrophic.
Right, so our mission today isn't just about highlighting the problem. We're digging into what actually works for recovery,
Yeah.
and maybe more importantly, what you can do before things go wrong. We want to give you clear, actionable steps.
Exactly. We're focusing on the proactive measures, the things you can set up, now to make sure your data stays safe, even if you temporarily lose access. We've looked at the latest trends, the security reports, and we'll be sharing those key findings.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We looked at a lot of recovery scenarios, and one thing really stood out. Success seems to hinge almost entirely on preparing beforehand. So what's the number one thing people should do?
It sounds almost too simple, but it's setting up those alternative recovery options before you actually need them, like a recovery phone number or a secondary email address.
And the data backs this up.
Oh, strongly. The sources we reviewed show that about 67% of account recoveries work out when people have actually set up those recovery options in advance.
67%. Okay, that's a decent number, but it also means, what, a third of attempts are failing? Even for people who might think they're prepared, what goes wrong there?
Yeah, that 33%, often it's just down to maintenance.
Hmm.
They set up a recovery email 5 years ago, maybe an old university address they never check, or a phone number for a phone they lost. The system's there, but the contact info has to be current and actually accessible to you.
Right, right. Keep it updated. Makes total sense.
Right.
Okay, so that's individuals. What about businesses, organizations using G Suite? How do admins tackle this recovery issue when it affects maybe hundreds of users?
Well, for G Suite, the Admin Console offers more direct tools. Admins can reset passwords, restore access, things like that. But the real danger during recovery isn't just resetting the password, it's the downtime. If someone critical is locked out for a day.
Productivity just hangs.
Exactly. That's where having a solid backup solution, like, say, Spin Backup, really changes things. It means even if an account is locked or compromised or someone accidentally deletes something important, the actual data is safe. It's backed up, it's encrypted, and it's ready to be restored pretty quickly while IT sorts out the access issue.
Okay, so that shifts it from a panic situation to more of a controlled process.
Yeah.
Let's switch back to that panic moment, though. Someone's locked out, staring at that Google account recovery page. What's the official process like? What do they ask for first?
So Google needs to recognize you somehow. It'll ask for your email or the phone number linked to the account, or sometimes the last password you remember using for it.
Okay, so you give them something, then what?
Then it kicks off the verification. It's trying to prove it's really you beyond just that potentially forgotten password.
And that verification usually involves...
Typically, yeah, entering that last password you remember, or getting a code sent via text to that recovery phone number, the one we said needs to be current,
Right.
or getting a code sent to your recovery email address.
And we already touched on this, but if those recovery options are out of date, or you just don't have access to them anymore,
Yeah.
are you just completely stuck? Is there anything else?
There are some, let's call them long shot options. Google might let you log in if you're using a device like a laptop or phone that you've used frequently with that account before. A known device.
Oh, okay. Device recognition.
Yeah. Or sometimes it might ask for really specific info, like the month and year you created the account, something only the real owner might know.
But trying to remember when you created an account maybe 10 years ago while you're stressed about being locked out, that sounds unreliable.
It really is. You're relying on perfect memory under pressure and hoping you haven't wiped your trusted devices recently. That's why that 67% success rate we mentioned really depends on having simple, up-to-date contact info ready to go.
Okay, so prevention is definitely better than cure here. Let's talk about that. What do the studies show are the absolute key preventative measures? This is where it gets really interesting, right?
Absolutely. The biggest one, hands down, is multi-factor authentication, MFA, or sometimes called 2FA, two-factor. You really should enable this immediately if you haven't.
And there's data on how effective this is.
Oh, yeah. Very strong data. A Microsoft study from 2023, cited in our sources, found that just using MFA cuts the risk of account compromise by a massive 99%.
99%. Wow, that is Incredibly effective. So if it's that good, where does that last 1% of risk come from? How do attackers get past the second factor?
Yeah, that 1%. That's where the really sophisticated stuff happens. Things like advanced phishing attacks that trick you into giving out both your password and the MFA code in real time. Or SIM swapping, where criminals trick your mobile carrier into transferring your phone number to their phone so they get your codes.
Oof, nasty stuff.
It is. It's rare, but it shows why even MFA isn't a silver bullet on its own. You need layers.
And MFA doesn't help much if the password itself is weak or compromised, right?
Yeah.
Which brings us back to, well, password habits.
Still a huge vulnerability. There was a recent survey, really eye-opening, found that 65% of people reuse the same password across different websites.
65%, that's a lot.
It's huge. Think about it. Some random forum or shopping site gets breached, and suddenly attackers have the password that maybe unlocks your email, your bank. It's why we always stress using unique, strong passwords. Update them regularly, keep recovery info current, and seriously, use a password manager. It makes it so much easier.
Definitely. Now, for businesses, especially in certain fields, security isn't just good practice. It's actually required, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Compliance is a major driver. If you're in healthcare, dealing with HIPAA, or education, finance with PCI DSS, GDPR, security controls are mandatory. You need ways to prove you're protecting data.
So that's where more comprehensive platforms come in. You mentioned Spin.AI earlier.
Yeah.
What kind of gaps do tools like that fill compared to just the standard Google tools?
Right. Organizations using something like Spin.AI are looking for centralized control over risks that, frankly, native tools might not cover deeply enough. Things like data leak prevention, we call it Spin.DLP, which actively monitors and can automatically stop sensitive data from being shared where it shouldn't. That's huge for compliance.
Okay.
And managing misconfigurations, especially with all the third-party apps people connect these days. Our security posture management tool, Spin.SPM, helps lock that down. It's about having that unified view and enforcement across everything.
Gotcha. So let's shift to the worst case scenario playing out, that 1% happens or maybe MFA wasn't enabled. What are the signs someone should look for? How do you know if your account might actually be hacked?
You need to be watching for anything unusual. Logins from places you've never been showing up in your activity log. Emails in your sent folder you definitely didn't send. Maybe settings have been changed, like your recovery options, or suddenly 2FA is turned off when you know you enabled it.
Or maybe a sudden flood of spam or weird phishing emails.
That too, especially targeted ones. Those are all red flags.
Okay, so if someone spots those signs, or worse, they're actually locked out, what's the absolute first thing they should do?
Priority one is getting control back fast. Head straight to the Google recovery page, use the forgot password flow, try to interrupt whatever the attacker is doing.
Once you're back in.
Okay, deep breath, then immediate action. Change your password, make it strong and unique. Immediately re-enable 2FA, double-check those recovery settings are yours, and, critically, run a full malware scan on all the devices you use to access that account. You need to make sure they didn't get in through malware on your end.
Right, cover all bases. This leads us to a really critical point, often overlooked. Data integrity. Getting your account back is one thing, but what if the data inside is gone or messed up? What's the big blind spot with backups?
The blind spot is thinking that just because your data is in the cloud, it's automatically safe and backed up in a way that helps you recover from anything. People sometimes mention Google Takeout for exporting data.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
But there's a catch our sources highlighted. Google Takeout downloads your data, sure, but it doesn't encrypt those exported files. So you end up with this potentially huge archive of sensitive data just sitting there, unencrypted, if that file gets misplaced or stolen.
That's a huge risk.
It is, and most people aren't going to manually encrypt it afterwards. Plus, how often do people even do backups?
Yeah, what does the data say about that?
It's honestly quite low. A 2024 study found only about 19% of users actually back up their important data monthly, less than 1 in 5.
Wow, only 19%. So there's this huge gap between MFA being 99% effective against compromise, but only 19% of people consistently backing up the data inside the account.
Exactly. That gap is where things like accidental deletion, human error, or even ransomware can cause massive damage. If the data isn't backed up independently, regaining access might not solve the core problem.
So that low number really underscores the need for something automated, right?
Yeah.
How does a third-party tool like Spin Backup address that 81% gap?
Well, Spin Backup is built specifically for that kind of resilience. It automates daily backups for Google Workspace data, encrypts it, and stores it securely, usually offsite or in a separate cloud region. This removes the human error factor of manual backups.
So it just runs in the background.
Yep. And it means if there's an incident, locked account, ransomware attack, whatever the data itself is protected and can be restored quickly, minimizing downtime. And Spin.AI, the Brado platform, integrates this with other protections, like Spin.RDR for ransomware detection and response, which can actually automate the recovery process from an attack.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, we've gone from basic recovery steps to enterprise-level defenses. What's the main message for you listening right now?
I think the core takeaway is really about being proactive. Don't wait for disaster. Set up and verify your two-factor authentication. Now get that 99% risk reduction. Keep your recovery phone and email absolutely up to date, and please automate your backups. Don't rely on remembering to do it.
And especially if you're managing critical data for a business using SaaS applications like Google Workspace, it really is time to look beyond just the built-in features. Explore comprehensive solutions. Tools like Spin.AI are designed for today's threat landscape, offering the resilience and control you really need.
Yeah, and maybe a final thought to leave you with. Think about this, even the most complex password, protected by MFA, doesn't mean much if the actual data isn't properly encrypted and backed up somewhere safe off-site. That 99% protection from MFA is great, but what happens if you fall into that 1%? How long could your business truly operate if that data vanish? Maybe it's worth requesting a demo of Spin Backup or Spin.AI to see how that safety net works in practice.
Thank you for listening. Stay safe,